So today we are going to the first lecture will be on scientific misconduct, which is basically part of the scientific conduct. Okay, and as a part of the RLP 102. Okay, so basically we are talking about this part scientific conduct, which I called as a 2AP: falsification, fabrication, and plagiarism. Okay, so let me go to that part directly. Okay, so here we go. So it's a part 3, scientific misconduct. So what generally research community does in common practice, what we propose first the research we want to do, and then perform a experiment or a data collection we start, and then review the result, analyze, reviewing the process, and finally we report them. So while doing that, what we have to do, we have to keep in mind that the data should not be deviate from the common practice, because if data deviates from the practice, so that is not accepted in academics. Okay, so it is unaccepted in academics, right? So what basically there are 3 main pillars of the scientific misconduct. So here I have listed one. The first one is the falsification. Second one is called fabrication, and third one is called plagiarism, right? And all of them are very important, particularly this plagiarism you must have heard many places, right? So while you performing your research and finally you're drafting for reporting in any form of the dissertation, then you need to keep in mind these 3 pillars, right? So now we'll be discussing one part of this. So I call this falsification, fabrication, plagiarism, in short called 2AP. That's the my short form of the scientific misconduct. So let's talk about the first. What is falsification in research? It's basically changing or you are omitting of a research result or data to support the claims and hypothesis, right? So you are changing or doing some kind of omission, ignoring something, right? In other words, it is also called manipulation of research instrumentation or materials or process, right? So in order to claim your hypothesis, right, or proposal you give, if data is not coming, then you cannot, according to the proposal you have given. So you usually some people may do this kind of wrong practice, modify the instrument so that it will give the result as you wish, or you modify the materials properly. Even if you modify the materials, but that's okay, you state that what modification you have done and why that's required. That's acceptable. But you cannot straightforward modify the materials or process in order to get your result according to your proposal, right? There should be some kind of justification. Also, it could be a manipulation of images or representation in a manner that distorts the data. So in chemistry point of view, there was a time there is a huge number of paper actually retracted because of there is a manipulation of the images, TM, STM images. Those are looks like a, for a general people, if they look, that does not mean much. But those are working in that area, if they figure out that the results or the picture or image is not supporting the what their nanoparticle size or distribution or shape they want, and then there is easily they used to do Photoshop or any other software to distort the data. So here is the one of the example. If some graphs are expected uh, data points with respect to time hours, and let's say the blue one is the perfect fitting one, and then your data actually you get like either the red one. So what you try to do, you to try to modify and put up something in between one line to make it make up your uh, data, something like that. So that's what you say. In the other way of misconduct is the fabrication. So what is fabrication? As I say, it means the making up research data or result. You try to make up your data. Now, that should not be done in the common practice, right? It could be a construction or addition of the data or observations or characterizations that never occurred while gathering the data or running the experiment. So when you perform your experiment and you construct a data, let's say sometime what happens is maybe power cut is there and you are running your experiment and in between stop, and you think that that the day you are performing your experiment that the best result you are getting. So instead of rerun the experiment, so some people may do a wrong practice. They construct or do the construction of data already. On the other one, they do the fabrication, okay, and filling out the rest of the experiments runs. Okay, so they assume that my graph should be or plot should be like this, and it is not completed because of some constraint. And then you simply assume that okay, my data should be projected like this, so I just put up those data and do the plot and do the publication. So that should not be done, right? So in overall, if you think about it, what is this fabrication actually basically means? It's a claims about the results. If you are doing claiming some results that need to be made on a complete data set. So that should be based on complete data set, okay, as normally assumed. But if you claims the if you claims has been made based on the incomplete or assumed results, so that is a one way or one form of called fabrication, right? So your claim should be based on the complete data set, not based on the incomplete data set. You should keep it in mind, okay? That's what you need to do many times experiment. Sometimes we do 2 to 3 times. So what is the minimum time you should do experiment? Minimum there should be 3 times. First time just you run with a set of experimental parameters, and second time you try to see how by changing how they behave data points, okay, and then what you proposal you have given, what story you want to, what the objective you want to achieve, and then see further how the data is happening, and then finally make up your mind which one has to be taken up, and then after considering the final parameters you should run third time before compiling the data for a publication, right, or presentation purpose. So you have to be very big patient in order to this kind of practice. Now, the third pillar of this scientific misconduct is the plagiarism. It's a very huge issue on the plagiarism nowadays. And all scientific journals now ask to use a plagiarism software to detect the plagiarism. They ask you to run on a certain kind of software before they proceed for the further review process. Okay, so there are many steps actually need to follow before publication. So they're very critical. And also they ask you the policy making, they ask you to many points you have to put a tick mark in order to pass your initial stage of your submission, right? So what do you understand by plagiarism? So plagiarism basically, if you are carrying somebody's ideas, okay, for example, this is the cartoon, it is a nice cartoon, got it from this source, and I just immediately put it. It's just carrying somebody's ideas or work, okay, and claiming that is your own work. Okay, just carrying, just a theft. So plagiarism basically presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own without their consent, okay, or incorporating it in your work without full acknowledgement. Always be safe. Acknowledge, try to acknowledge it. That's a good practice actually, right? You should acknowledge whoever contribute, even it is a smaller contribution, but you should try to acknowledge, right? Always. That's a good practice actually. So nobody is asking, demanding something by acknowledging, right? Stopping you to do something. So be polite, be acknowledged, always put up acknowledgement. Somebody, you just need to credit, give you credit. Sometimes you get actually good advice from others actually while discussing your ideas or the research or results. Sometimes you stuck and then you discuss somebody else, but always put up in the acknowledgement section because so and so person actually helped me during this part of this research or wherever, whatever way they have action. So basically, this plagiarism also, in other word, you can say uh, the adoption of others' ideas, processes, and results, okay, without giving proper credit. Okay, so you have to give a proper credit, okay, and you should not take anybody idea. Even if your idea generated from somebody, you should acknowledge them also, right? Now, this plagiarism may be sometime see we intentionally somebody does, right? Sometime it may be unintentional actually due to some careless scrutiny you have done during your process. Okay, so there are many way it can happen, right? So it is not necessary that all the time it is intentional. It could be unintentional as well, or you are not taking that carefully while performing or reviewing and finally reporting the result. Okay. Now, what are the possible reasons why such thing happened actually, right? So we always think about why such thing happened because there are many cases. First of all, there is a pressure to publish because if you publish, then your increment will come up, okay, and otherwise you don't get a increment, so you have a pressure to publish, or you got a funding from somebody, then you have to publish. That is the pressure you build up, and you just try to do that. Or due to nowadays online things are there, you just do copy and pasting. But even if you're doing that one, but you have to paraphrase it. So I'll talk about in the later side. There is a part of called how to write a plagiarism free uh, article. So I'll talk about many things over there. So you basically listen carefully. These are the things while doing your activities during not only coursework. After that, when you start your research work, okay. It is also if somebody find a difficulties in writing English. So your native is not, you are not English spoken countries, and then you find difficulties. Then what you try to do, you try to avoid something and just copy and paste and put it as your own language, right? Or there could be a lack of suitable training. Sometimes some newcomers come, new students come, right? When we are as a student as a Bangalore, even myself gone through a training for a English course. Okay, because my supervisor find out that I am from a village, rural area, and don't have that much English, both spoken as writing. So immediately my supervisor figure out and then asked me to take a course on that one. So I took that one, and eventually I struggled a long period of time, and then I make up. Now I could write a good English, or even I can speak it better, right? So you have to put a lot of effort in order to, if something is lacked, then you have to do that. So the lack of training. So training sometimes we provide here also. Sometimes we have a lot of activity does related to some kind of extra things for training, such kind of training. So you should take part on this, and so that your improve your training should be complete, Wherever lack, that should be make it up, right? Lack of awareness. Sometimes you are a newcomer again, so you don't know while writing a paper, you should put up somebody's name if somewhere you took the information, right? So your supervisor will tell you while you were writing, you should not do this, you should do this, you should acknowledge this. So that's called awareness. Even if you don't know, and if somebody figure out as your mentor, and mentor has a responsibility to tell you this is not the way to do the scientific practice. So you must acknowledge somebody else, right? If you are taking something from somebody. Now, next is what are the different form of plagiarism? So there are many form of plagiarism already we talk about, right? So for example, if you are cutting and pasting already have talked about, you word for word quotation you have taken without clear acknowledgement, inaccurate citation, you do not put the proper citation, or you give over citation your own work, use materials written by professional agency. Nowadays ChatGPT or any other softwares are there, you are using that, but that software is not known what you are doing, right? You are the sole author of the research things you are coming, and if you are using some kind of agency, hiring agency, or using some software, so they may mislead you, your data representation or this thing. So you try to improve your English or writing skill. Okay, try to know as much what things should be done, what should not be done. So then you should avoid that. Or to plagiarism, that sometimes happens because same person writing different paper, they may sometimes borrow the material from his own work. Okay, so this is the nice cartoon. In order to save the time, you just do a copy, a paste, and that is common practice in, since some materials may available in the online. So that is a should not be done. Even if you are taking that one, then you try to write your own language. Now that's what many funding agencies, and earlier it was the publication side, they actually asked to do the plagiarism check, but even nowadays the funding agency also asks you to do the plagiarism check. For example, here ACRB DST, I just took this notification from their website. It says plagiarism checks notification. So you should do the all PI, that means the principal investigator should do the plagiarism check before submitting their proposal, right? So the original things should be credited. Now, what is the consequence of scientific misconduct? If you do a scientific misconduct, that is terrible things. So some of them I'm pointing out over here. For example, it may sometime the publisher will ask you to withdraw the paper if they find that your paper is scientifically misconducted. Okay, so you can get the also warning and removal from the project, or your rank can go down, or your salary could be go down, or it at the end you can be fired from the institute. Okay, or sometime also the funding agency asks you to reimburse the money whatever you got as a grant for the research proposal, right? And also ineligible to apply a grant. So in future they will they mark you are not a good practice person, then they mark you, and then eventually they restrict you in future application also. What the extreme thing can happen, this is the nice picture I took it from there. It's a dead end, right? There is no way to grow in your career. So that's the dead end things can happen. Okay. And also here is a nice picture I have taken from the journal. Say if your journal is retracted, and when the first point, so we talk about the withdrawal of the research paper. So basically they what they will do in the online, they will put like this on your article, retracted. So that means you have done something wrong on that publication, and then it will be written like this one. So this ELSBR paper I have taken up from there. Now even the misconduct can lead to a very big problematic. See, this is the information I took from science in 2020, just last year actually. So while I'm preparing my notes, and then I found that in the science paper actually there says Stanford presidents to step down despite prove exonerating him of the research misconduct. So if the person who done the misconduct, then institute asks them to investigate it, and there is a lot of things and protocol you have to maintain to step it down from his position. So this kind of things can happen. It does not matter whether you are in the leader of the institute, so it can happen to you as well if you do the misconduct. So you try to avoid the wrong practice. Always remember 2FP. Okay. So falsification, fabrication, and the plagiarism. So we'll be talking about in the future the plagiarism more. So right now we'll complete this part. Okay. So now I'll give you the assignment of this from this part. Okay, please note down. Might be today we have a little bit